as well. So for the next panel discussion, the topic is going to be regulated or a free market. So now, the blockchain space is thought to be a decentralized system. However, NFT marketplaces are technically centralized. So having said that, let's get ready for the next session to gather more insight in this area. So I'd like to welcome back someone that was here this morning, gave the amazing session. He's going to be moderating the session. It's Matt Armitage. Please welcome him. Welcome back.
Am I loud? Can you,
One moment, let me check with the team.
Yes, I think I'm on now.
Oh, okay, he's
That's
on.
cool.
Awesome, okay.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Thank you, everybody. I know it's been a very long day, and that was a very interesting talk just before us. But now we're going to talk about regulated and free markets. Now, at present, we know that NFTs are subject to little or no regulation, which means that those who create NFTs, the people who invest and trade in them, they're operating currently with very few legal protections or operational guidelines. But it's very unusual for industries that generate billions and billions of dollars to be subject to so little oversight. So that brings us back to that question that we always come to with emerging markets. Should we regulate, or should we let the market operate without oversight or intervention? With me today to discuss the pros and cons of free and regulated markets are my first guest, Sam Majid. It's only love. I'm a little far away, actually. I'm going to come a little bit closer. Our next guest is from Pentas, is Mo. Mo, if you'd like to come on stage, hi. Our next guest is Mr. Richard Wee.
We started dancing and love put us into a groove.
Hi, Richard. And finally, we have Ling Hoong.
As soon as we started.
Thanks, man.
So I'll just give yeah, it's a little bit bright. I'll just do a quick introduction to all of our guests. Now, Shamsul, Izhan, Abdul, Majid, sorry, I'm mangling names today, is the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at the Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission, which is better known as MCMC. He's recognized for his track record in digital transformation, especially in the area of business growth. And at MCMC, Sam is responsible for the Commission's strategic vision for technology and innovation. And he focuses on growth and improving technological advancement. And that sounds pretty much exactly like the resume that you want somebody who's going to be talking about regulatory systems for NFTs.
So
right? We'll make a move first. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. He can manage on his own.
Okay, Mo is one of the founders of Pentas.io. Pentas.io is an NFT marketplace that takes a public advocacy approach to promoting and cheerleading the adoption of blockchain technologies. Yes. He is a branding expert and a sports enthusiast, which is going to be very important on this panel. He has also championed cybersecurity best practices within various companies. And it's this diverse background that he's focused on building Pentas.io into a regional leader in the NFT marketplace segment. So thank you, Mo. Richard Wee is another sports fanatic. This is the legal half of our bench. He's the managing partner of Richard Wee Chambers, And strangely, it's actually through his legal work representing sports personalities that he's come into the area of NFTs, as well as fintech, cyber law, bringing those into his areas of practice. Among the many boards and advisory panels that he's a member of, which we could list for the next half an hour, Richard is a regulatory panel of is a regulatory partner rather of MDEC's FinTech Booster program, which is a capacity building platform for fintech startups and companies. Finally, Mr. Ling Hoong is a partner at the legal practice H.L. Lee & Co. He specializes in the areas of capital markets and commercial law. Ling has previously acted as head of legal and corporate affairs for various companies listed on Bursa Malaysia and the Singapore Exchange. And he is a passionate advocate for blockchain technologies, which you'll know if you caught his talk earlier today. And of course, I would also like to thank this session's sponsorship partner, Futurise, for making today possible. Futurise focuses on innovation, regulation, and commercialization under the umbrella of the Ministry of Finance. The company has been mandated by the Malaysian government to lead the National Regulatory Sandbox Initiative, trying not to mangle things. Its mission is to expedite regulatory intervention, deploy innovation and technology solutions, and establish new innovation ecosystems. Futurise plays an active role as a public policy advisor to government ministries and agencies to coordinate the development of anticipatory, progressive, and inclusive regulatory frameworks, which will shape the future economy of Malaysia. Now, I think before we discuss why we do or don't need a regulatory framework for NFTs, we should probably take a quick look at the current status quo. And I know, Richard, you've done a little bit of background research into what the regulations are and how they differ from country to country.
Well, first things first, thanks to M1NTED Asia for having me here. And thank you to Futurise for having me here. And I think they may have overestimated my knowledge on NFT. The truth is, Matt, I think, unless Ling probably may know more than me, but NFT is fairly the wild, wild west for lawyers still. So I think any lawyer who indicate that they are very, very well versed in that NFT, I would like to know that lawyer. Yeah. But from what I can see, Matt, to share with the crowd today, what we have noticed is that there's not any particular country with a proper framework of regulation for NFT. Of course, I was advised recently, in fact, just earlier, also just now, that Dubai has one. And I'm still studying that. I guess we need to do more studies on that. And then looking at the states, typical of the states, they allow capitalism to move forward. So there isn't any really proper regulation. UK, India, similar. But what I can see the trend, Matt, is that most countries, the system keep an eye on NFT with regards to anti-money laundering, AMLA. And in Malaysia, it's called AMLA. And then, so there is a concern that NFT, in its acquisition and its sale, that the vendor and the purchaser could actually be involved in perhaps unsavory transactions, which may or may not include money laundering. So that's what we noticed so far, what I've noticed so far. And I think along the way, the next half an hour, we have? Half an hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah, half an hour, 45
okay,
minutes. Yeah.
32 minutes, we've got time now. Okay, there's timer, all right, cool, yeah. That reminds me of the movie where we're on time, yeah. So we've got 32 more minutes, so I think we can add on as we go along.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask Ling as well, when we look at this from a consumer perspective, and I don't want to make you replicate too much of what you spoke about already today, but if I buy an NFT, what am I actually doing from a legal perspective? You know, what rights do I have as a consumer when I actually purchase an NFT?
Well, actually, if I can remind everyone of our previous sessions, our representative from M1NTED actually did a great job on summarizing the rights of that you can derive from the NFT itself, and then also the assets, the proprietary rights. Basically, they put it into the right perspective. So we got to distinguish these few aspects at the first place. As I mentioned earlier in my earlier sessions, NFT is merely virtual tickets. It very much depends on the additional features that comes with it. Some NFT comes with features, some doesn't. So all it left is the copyrights, the trademarks, the patent, the design on it. And before we actually subscribe to it, it's actually applicable both to the creator as well as the consumer. Actually, not just the consumer overall, also the creator. They must have awareness about what are they selling. Are you selling away your graphic rights? Are you selling your IP rights at the first place? Or you are merely selling it as a digital collectible?
Okay, thank you. And if I can ask the same question, flipped a little bit to Mo, as someone who is, providing a market for NFTs, how do you respond to this lack of regulation? What protections do you put in place for consumers to give them the confidence to interact with you?
Okay, thank you. Basically, everyone knows, as our legal expert has said, it's pretty much...
Sorry, we are still searching for the NFT lawyers.
To put it into a context...
The full-fledged NFT lawyer and the crypto lawyers is not in yet. That's what Richard said.
To put it into context, it's still pretty much wild west. That's the first one. But then, having said that, how pentas deploy and how to ensure the somewhat a level of responsibility is that everybody loves when talks about liberty and freedom. But then you shouldn't have just that without responsible, being responsible to something. So for example, pentas, if you look at other marketplace, I cannot speak on behalf of other marketplace, but we can say that I believe we are by far the only marketplace doesn't have or entertain any not safe of work kind of thing, NSFW. We don't have that. That is one. That is a part of how we filter out and how to ensure that pentas is technically a refuge. When I say refuge, because if you have young children as young as 8 years old, we have a creator as young as 10 years old, we have a 12 years old, which is there outside just now. I saw a couple of them. The last thing you want as a parent for these young children to have access to things that are vulgar when they swing by on the marketplace. So we have, I would say, successfully, by far, did that. So that is one of the way for us to ensure the safety is that we filter out whatever that not safe. I hope that answer your question.
No, it does. And I'd like to ask Sam as well, and this may be a slightly unfair question because it's absolutely enormous. But what issues does it pose from your perspective when you see the kind of volume within this market, but also the lack of corresponding regulation? How does it make life difficult for you?
Thank you, Matt, and thank you again to Futurise and everybody being here. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I suppose we're all here learning things as we go by. And MCMC being a commission, we have a few things that we take care of today. Things like telecommunication, broadcasting, postal and courier. And fundamentals are the same, meaning that first of all, there must be some act of government to protect businesses, to protect consumers. And also, it comes then down to things like license condition. How do we make sure that the businesses that run in those ecosystems are fair, they don't cheat off consumers, and to support that ecosystem as well. And I suppose this may be something that NFT may have in the future. Are things like forums where like-minded people come together and discuss on what's fair and equitable and to take the industry forward. We also have things like Malaysia Technical Standards Board, MTFSB, where a bunch of people come together and set up standards. to kind of stabilize things and maybe even to localize things instead of just using things from overseas that have got no compliance to what we do here. And on top of that, seeing how telecommunication, postal courier have been going on since 1998, there's also another area where it's about complaints. So complaints come in to a commission like MCMC, and therefore in the future maybe NFT, there might be some commission taking care of it. And so the commission needs to take care of how do we deal with the complaints, how do we make sure that the businesses do the right thing. If the business don't react well to the buyers, then what is the act of government or commission to actually help satisfy complaints and even bring it to the next level of summons or ombudsman and things like that. So I can see that there might be some progression, and that takes a lot of collaboration and forums, communities, discussions, standards.
Okay, thank you. And on that subject of collaboration as well, obviously a lot of NFT transactions are transnational, which complicates the issues even further. So, Richard, can I ask you, how would somebody enforce or pursue a sale across the many jurisdictions that this transaction might include?
That's a really good question. Quite a long story short, it's going to be tough. Just before I go into that, Matt, to refine what was mentioned earlier, so while we've set the tone that that is virtually a Wild Wild West, what we mean by Wild Wild West is that there is no, like what rightly Sam mentioned, that there is no one particular authority at the moment. But it doesn't mean that there's no law around it. Yeah. We still have contract law, still have the national laws which govern that particular nation. So in my discussions with Matt prior to arriving here today, one of the ideas we discussed is that what if we have an NFT from Australia, and the acquisition is done somewhere in Mongolia, and if you put an art into the NFT, and the art came from Uganda, so and the deal doesn't go through, how does it work? So traditionally, of course the suit has to take place at where the sale take place, so probably Mongolia. But I would think that we should have arbitration on that. Arbitration is where there is a borderless dispute resolution body. But that's where all it goes to really nitty-gritty, boring lawyer stuff, who sue where, what way, wow, and that's where the lawyer will send you a big bill, and then people get panic, oh my God, so expensive. But the truth is that I think we have the same problem with cryptocurrency. We have the same problem whenever we deal with any foreign and cross-border dealings. We have the same problem. But I think more and more government, more and more court system have begun to realize that, no, we can't do the traditional approach and say, oh, this deal is in Mongolia, you go there, you don't come here. I think more judges are prepared to take on the accountability and defend the matter. So the principal place for you to defend your right will be at a court. That is obvious. And any courts. And of course, if there are relevant transactions where they refer to arbitration, you can refer to arbitration. Contract law comes in, commercial law comes in. I can imagine we have to look at AMLA. We have to also look at certain rules on intellectual property. Tax rules comes in. So we wrote there about that. And before we came up, Matt, I mentioned to you, I don't know whether any of you heard the Tarantino case. So it's happening in US now. So Tarantino apparently, he did an NFT on Pulp Fiction. And the studio, I can't remember now what's the name of the studio. Is it MGM or Paramount or whatever? They took an action against Quentin Tarantino. And of course, most of you, if you're my age, you will know that Tarantino and Pulp Fiction is one of the same, The younger one will be like, Tarantino? Okay, never mind. You Google later and find out. So it is interesting now to see how the American court is going to judge who owned the rights to that Pulp Fiction, right? So if we can decipher from there, then we can roll down and see when we define the rights, we will know better who own what at what time at what place. Slowly. And it takes time. I mean, contract law took a few hundred years to be where it is. So I think NFT may take another 30, 40 years before it becomes more and more refined.
Yeah, thank you. And on that point of rights, Mo, how do you approach, obviously when a user uploads their work to the marketplace and sells it on, how are those copyright protections in place to prevent somebody claiming somebody else's work and selling it for their gain?
Yeah. First thing first, I like to touch back on Tarantino case. There's actually a scenario that is happening largely in NFT world. Normally, as a creator, whatever that you created, if I bought it, I'm just the owner or collector. I don't own any IP rights on that.
Yeah.
But there are certain scenarios whereby me buying your stuff, you transferring the IP as well. You know, but then obviously you have to clearly state it that exactly, lock, stock and barrel. So one scenario, which is so happened that one of the famous project, BAYC, allows that. So if you bought or you own any piece of BAYC, you own that IP as well. Okay. All right. So you have those who owns that. What they did was they spin off. They do merchandise because they own the IP. Yeah. You know, but that is a rare case. Often, even until today, I believe majority of creators on Pentas, I don't know, probably there are few, but as far as I know, none of them giving out the IP. You know, I've created my collection, you can own it, you can enjoy the utilities, but I've never going to give you any IP related to that. Maybe not yet.
Yeah. But does that still, is that further complicated by NFTs attached to music works, for example? Because a lot of artists, they don't own their own material, and it's not even one company that owns their material. The record company owns part of the rights, the publishing company owns another part of the rights, and there's probably a 360 company in there somewhere that owns another portion of the rights. So how does that get approached?
Okay, this is interesting because the most easiest is that, okay, to trace who owns what, you have to check who minted. Simple as that. Which wallet does the minting? That's number one. But second, if it's going to be a split thingy, you know, this is where some complication or potential issue will arise. But if you can deploy that on a smart contract that auto cater in terms of splitting the royalty, then you got it sorted out. You know, as long as if the moment you minted, you know, at the wallet that connected, it's already agreeable that this is a shared ownership, then you don't have a problem. But normally the problem only come after when you deploy first and then you talk later. So, and often this is where we are at the moment. Yep. Yeah. That kind of scenario. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And
for just to add up on the more, I always use the analogy when they face this situation. If we use the comic creators, they usually have pencilists who draw up the figures, and they have anchors, put up the colors, and on top of that, they have these content creators, the person who come up with the storyline. So those days, they got to have some complications between who's own what, and most often, they always do a joint filing on the IP rights behind. Now, recently, it has been sorted out because all of them, they sign a license, and all three are being employed under one company. And just keep that in mind, if any one of you are creating any NFT being employed by any companies, chances are the companies that's employing you to do that piece of work are the rightful owner behind. So all these things can be resolved by a nicely crafted, planned licensing agreement.
Beforehand.
Yes,
always
exactly
upfront.
Beforehand.
Always do things upfront.
Yeah, cannot be afterthought.
But I want to touch on one of the points that Sam raised, which is the role of MCMC and the existing regulatory frameworks that are there. And Ling, I wanted to ask you, when we look at technology, we often think, oh, this is a new product, so therefore it requires new legislation. Have we made a kind of fundamental misunderstanding of what NFTs are? And rather than apply existing laws to cover them, we consider this is an entirely novel product that needs an entirely new regulatory framework.
It depends on how we view this NFT, what is really NFT, because most of the time, currently, as I mentioned earlier, NFT predominantly appears in the visual arts forms. So people tend to relate or associate these two together. Visual arts is NFT, NFT is a new piece of visual arts. It's a new piece of digital asset, digital collectible, although it's nothing new. But if we dissect the elements and the components and look into the core of NFT, really, it's just a channel, it's a bridging, it's a path. It's a ticket for you granting us certain rights. As the analogy that we always use, the concert ticket, it doesn't grant you any rights on the design and patterns or drawing or any sort on the ticket or pass itself, unless of course stated otherwise, like in the case of Pentas and also BAYC. But then I think that's also the factor in that IP rights, hence the premium. So it also comes with a price, right? Otherwise, you really have to look into the features of it. So the way we see it is NFT is a stack of certificate of authenticity. So it's a blank certificate. It's up to the creator, up to the issuer and the seller to create. It could be a title to a house, a deed, or a license to drive, rights to acquire a car. So of course, you can't govern the house title with a set of new NFT rules, because you should be looking at the real properties or land law in this case. So vice versa.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to turn to Sam again, and I'm sorry, Sam, I keep asking you all the completely unfair questions today. How can a consumer know that the marketplace that they're heading to is legitimate, that they're actually going to end up owning the work that they've purchased, that their money is not just going to disappear into some crypto wallet somewhere with nothing to be seen?
Yeah, that is a tough question, and
yeah, like I said, I'm sorry. That's
yeah. I would say it's maybe boils down to two parts, and what I'm going to say has nothing to do with MCMC. Number one is common sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's just common sense, meaning that as a buyer, you probably do a lot of research on what are you buying, who you're buying from, is it a reputable seller? Buyer beware. Yeah, sometimes things are too good to be true. You just have the have the heart to step away if the deal is just way too good. That's number one. What you can do on your own. And I suppose this principle is the same when it comes to things that people do these days on the internet. Yeah. Things that if you don't follow your common sense, then spam and many other things that MCMC officers are very tied into, and they need to look into how to safeguard citizens' rights. Then the second part is, to me, is I suppose the internet gives you this ability of the others, your peers and the community, giving some sort of a reference or validation that what you're buying or where you're buying from or who you're dealing with might be of a reputable person. So those two, I suppose it's the same as any other consumer today when they buy things from an e-commerce site, and perhaps those things that they bought may be too good to be true, and if they use common sense, then they walk away from what they're buying from and who they're buying from.
Okay, and can I just add a little bit to that as well? Because one of the things we're also seeing is an increase in scam-based crimes that use telephone communications and then ask people to put money into blockchain or cryptocurrencies. So how can you move to control that kind of crime?
Yeah, so today a lot of government agencies, they are there due to the acts of government, and often those acts of government needs to be updated to what the present society is looking at. Case in point, the Communication and Multimedia Act 1998, which MCMC is there for, it has words that are big enough to cover many things, but it doesn't have enough words to cover certain things that we are talking about now. And yes, that's a matter of interpretation. And I think this is where lawmakers and the community that I was talking about, consumer forums, standards, all come in to help shape, that further vocabulary needed to beef up or maybe to help the next wave of enforcement, I suppose, commission, or even government officers to understand how do we protect society of tomorrow and today.
Okay, thank you. And can I ask Richard and Ling, obviously we can't go into details, but have you had a lot of cases that are NFT related coming towards you? Yeah.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier in the speakers, personally I've had 2 inquiries, both, hopefully they're not here, both was quite, I felt it wasn't a very clean question, but yeah, both were related to NFT. One was somewhat related to AMLA. That was last year. I met this person on Google Meet. The other one was also more of a concern. They said, I acquired from someone, and that person is investigated under AMLA. What do I do? So that's why I said I end up being an AMLA expert overnight about this. And but my other inquiries, which are good inquiries, are my sports clients. I do lots of work for sports and esports. So both my sports and esports clients, especially those with big personalities, they want to capture NFT. And they capture the concept of, like recently, she's not my client, but recently our famous Olympic diver, Pandalela, she captured her image into an NFT. And now she's trying to monetize that, which is good. Because her career is going to come to a conclusion soon, and she's going to move on to another career. And it would be good for her to continue having income steadily. So NFT is one way. So that's the other way. That's the corporate side of NFT.
Yeah.
I do that, and that's interesting. I like that part. The earlier one is a bit of a dodgy. But so far, so like that. And I've not had any litigation cases on NFT, which could be a good thing. But no question on litigation yet.
Okay.
Yet. I don't know about Ling. Got any case?
So far, not yet on the litigation. My practice more focusing on the commercial arrangement agreement. So yes, lately we've been doing a lot of sale and purchase of NFT using the crypto as a payment consideration media. Yeah, so it's something new because all this while we've been using legitimate fiat different countries. So they are not even quoting any country's fiat now. Nothing equivalent to how much US dollar, just straight away putting Ethereum or Bitcoin and with the NFT transaction. Apart from that, there are also lots of NFT issuers who are interested. I think there's a set of rulings, guidelines in the SC talks about if you are custodian of the NFT, there's another long, complicated story. But I think sometimes just to add up on the MCMC side, the SAM side, I think they are more acting like guardian and spreading the awareness and educating the public because it's really unfair for us to expect them to catch up. We get to see this NFT as an ecosystem. We got to have a responsible seller or marketplace like M1NTED does, right? And with issue guidelines, message, educational awareness from time to time from MCMC, and basically everyone has to play their part. The old saying, the old wisdom is if you think something is too good to be true, it probably is.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add, Matt?
Yeah, sure.
I think we should first deal with the gullibility of people. People are very gullible, so we need to do that. And if we are going to regulate this gullibility, we should use the Security Commission Obviously, Bank of Negara can't come in because they don't see this as a currency, even though the name currency is there. And I personally always took a position that if we are really going to regulate, then it should be under someone like SC, and NFT and cryptocurrency should be regulated either together or hand in hand. You know, if you're going to set up the rules for currency, cryptocurrency, it should be also applied somewhat to NFT because they both have fairly overlapping characters. So that's, I think, how moving forward is. But we'll see because we keep on changing government in the last 5 years. So I'm not sure whether we still have a government tomorrow. Every day we wake up, I don't know whether we still have a government. So they have to do some. Yeah, and I pity people working in MCMC because they change minister all the time, you know, yeah. So yeah, like my friends in MDEC, there are 3 ministers in, anyway. So yeah, I hope if the government is listening in, please get your facts in order. The people are worried. Do something about this. Forget about politics, please, for one moment. And then try to step in and regulate this ASAP because NFT is growing very, very, very fast. And if you don't regulate it soon, then you get unsavory aspects coming into it. We may just lose it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mo, obviously there are a lot of people in the NFT space who are extreme free marketeers who don't want to see any intervention, any interruption of business. What kind of system and framework would you like to see from the perspective of Pentas?
Okay, obviously free market, but then again, we stand by the principle that the basis that I've laid out earlier. As much as we want freedom and liberty, it needs to come in hand with being responsible. So we hang on to that principle quite tight in the sense that, yes, we allow whoever, whatever, you know, for you to craft your art, you know, up to you. But then, having said that, advocacy is quite crucial as well. So we've been doing that since day one. You know, like you said that whoever that intend to purchase or become a collectors, they need to have somewhat a certain basic knowledge. And also we have another filtering called verified account. So if I'm a creator, I've got verified. Usually it's more kind of a comfort to purchase from this. Yeah, something like that. But having said that, I'm not saying that those who are not verified are not good. And it's just that we are giving you somewhat another layer of verification and stuff like that because we believe that in order for the users to be comfortable, to feel that whatever that, whenever they come onto Pentas, they feel comfort and safe. Partly Pentas have to always propagate some rules, some knowledge, you know, just to impart this consistently so that people know we are there and we always give them heads up. Sure. You know? So, but of course, having said that, this need to be done on a regular basis. There's always a community engagement need to be done. We are fortunate in the sense that not just us, usually the Pentas community itself, they themselves are doing this quite robustly in the sense that they have a gathering on their own, but of course not to talk about regulation, obviously. But then when you do this, you get to tell who's who, you know, and then you get somewhat, you know that which project is actually a genuine project and which project is actually just probably a bit dodgy, you know. Some project that eyeing for quick bucks, you'll know eventually. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You can say so.
That's very good.
And Sam, again, you don't have to answer on behalf of MCMC for this one. We won't hold you. Won't hold you to anything. What kind of framework would you like to see in place within Malaysia for regulating NFTs?
That's a good question, you know. That's a good question.
I think that question should be to us, the player, the market player, not the regulator. But
again, just to echo, there is no regulator for NFT today. So MCMC is certainly not the regulator for NFT yet.
Security Commission.
SC. Anyone from SC?
Yeah. Anyway, SC, please step up and take the mic. So I would say the framework would be somewhat collaborative. Driven by market forces that basically is inclusive, that invites a lot of players in from variety of sizes and interests. And this basically helps. I mean, looking at what we are doing in many of those industries, by having those sort of movements happening, then it helps that self-regulatory speed and momentum to actually happen. But it's not a one-size-fits-all. So, you know, I think it's more about also in terms of raising awareness. What else that we should do? Events like what we are in today. Maybe there's more of them that needs to be needs to happen. Raise the awareness of buyers' rights and sellers' rights, and what other technology features that may come from the next evolution of Web 3.0, for example. All this, I think, plays a part. And by the end of the day, without people with the right intent and mindset to actually help self-regulate, then this whole thing might just go by the wayside. So I think by the end of the day, it's the community that matters.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open the conversation out to the floor. Does anyone have any questions for the panel? Sorry, I'm shading my eyes so I can see. Yeah, that's to peek. Do we have any questions? Oh, okay, thank you.
Hi. Okay, I've got one question. It's for each of you. What are in the interests of the government that can both the private and the retail sector lobby for in order to create a favorable regulation for Web3 society?
Can I go first? Okay, for me, it's simple. Government, one of the responsibility apart from to regulate is to make sure that economy is thriving. You know, so if they were to do something about it, I would say that first thing first, to have a clear framework, legal framework. Because as of now, of course, we have an engagement with SC actually. You have to understand approach of, allow me to give example, Indonesia. Indonesia, when it comes to cryptocurrency, it is treated as a commodity. But when it comes to Malaysia, it's treated as security. See, with that alone, it gives you a very distinct explanation, you know? Yeah, and then how you govern it as well. One is commodity and one is security. So for me, as a pentas folks, we need something clearer, more solid in the sense that so that we know we can move faster and more robustly. Because at the moment, whatever that we are doing, we know that we are not doing anything illegal. I have to make sure that that is clear, because we have spoken to them, you know. But then only if there's a clear framework, like, hey folks, this is NFT, how does it work, you know, go ahead, this is your playground. I believe that we can move a lot faster than where we are right now. You know, I believe that by having that clear legal framework, we can charter more territory. I hope that's answer your question.
Cool. Any responses from the rest of the panel?
I think he answered for all of us.
Okay, that's fine. Any other questions?
Yes, any other questions? Oh, okay, the gentleman in the middle. Could the team give him a mic, please? Okay, it's on your way.
Hey, this one's for, I think, Richard mainly perhaps. What, in your view, sort of, thinking out maybe to the next 3 to 5 years, what does the regulatory landscape for NFTs and NFT marketplaces look like to you? Just, blue sky thinking, right?
For Malaysia or around the globe?
Perhaps both. Let's go with both.
For Malaysia, okay. My personal outlook has always been that, looking at the way we run our country, Malaysia, hopefully no more change of government, but I think the system at B will be regulating something which, as Mo said, which will run the economy, something which is pushing the economy well. We will come in and regulate it, especially if there are plenty of dodgy deals. So the Security Commission, for example, was created, I think, over 20, 30 years ago for a reason. Of course, we have the police regulating our behavior for a long time ago. So I think the next 3 or 4 years, eventually when the government figure out what is crypto and how to deal with NFTs, I think someone will come up with at least some guidelines for the next 3 to 5 years. Across the globe, actually, personally, I wish all the countries will sit down and meet together and then talk about this and then say, hey, bro, how are you going to do NFT? I don't want to be security. I want it to be, like what you say, Malaysia and Indonesia. All the countries sit down, maybe over teh tarik or something like that, chit-chat and come to a compromise. And then that will help to deal with litigation so that I don't have to fly to Mongolia or Uganda to file a suit. So, but I foresee for now, every country is going through the what is this stage for now. And my colleagues in Futurise has mentioned that Dubai has taken the first step. I would like to study that. Maybe if I meet you again a month from now, I can give you a better answer on that. But for now, Malaysia probably will have some rules coming up in the next few years. And across the globe, I think every country will be pushing for some regulation soon, especially when NFT create lots of revenue, which means the government can collect tax. When the government realize that they can collect tax, the magic word kaching tax, then they'll come in. They'll come in. That's what I think will happen lah. Of course, I stand corrected. So maybe 3 years from now it didn't happen. I don't know, but that's what I see. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
I agree with Wee. And just to add up, I think first we have a good start. If we look at our 2019 order, overall in Malaysia, I think we have open, less conservative approach. Unlike China, they totally ban crypto, and indirectly they actually discourage NFT. So far, if we look at the new development, it is quite well received in Malaysia, starting from online shopping, .coms. Mainly, we as in Malaysia, the practice all this while, we do not prohibit, we do not forbid. They will just wait and observe, and subsequently they will start issuing some guidelines or order to start regulating, because like what we say probably there's the tax income is a good income stream coming in. And just do not forget that apart from the legislation, Malaysia also rely a lot on the case law. So far, if we look at the court case decided by the judges, the gist is they normally focus on the substance itself. So it doesn't matter whether you like to call it NFT or non-NFT, because if you look at the 2019, they did not fix it as security. They just mentioned that NFT can fall under security if it falls under certain categories. Yeah. So it is still pretty open for now. So there's still hope.
Cool.
Well, El Salvador is
the only country in
so
the
far.
world. Yeah.
So you can go and buy.
They even amend constitution for that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you can actually buy if they have roti canai, you can have roti canai in.
It's legal tender. Yeah.
But
I
here
think by far it's the only country in the world.
I can't imagine going to Mama for bro. I give you NFT one, you give me roti. I think not yet lah. But it may happen.
But we can do barter trade. In Malaysia, it's not a legal tender, but widely acceptable as a barter trade. Yeah.
I hope I answered your question. I hope we answer your question. Yeah, good question by the way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got to wrap things up because I'm turning into a serial offender when it comes to timing on these sessions today. So I'd like to thank all the guests for being here today. Please say a big thank you to Sam Majid, to Mo, to Richard, and to Ling. Thank you very much, everyone.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the insightful session, guys. Last round of applause for them. All right. Thank you again. Oh, you can leave the show. Oh, before you leave the stage, let's take a picture with our official photographer. He's right there. Oh, you want a selfie? Okay. You want me to take it? Awesome. Oh, can we take one official one there? Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you later at Tiffin, okay?